All right, peeps. We're back. We are back yet again for the COVID cabal. Yet again for the COVID cabal. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Guys, I apologize. A little late today. A little late. Salmon, busy shit. Busy shit. We are moving out of the apartment in New York. And just an enormous amount of crap, guys. An enormous amount of crap. There is very, very minimal. Did Biden actually break his leg? Is that actually true? Guys, it's just there's been so much. There's been so much shit. There's been so much shit to do, like from regular tasks to business related stuff. Because as you guys know, the master class is dropping. Updated master class is dropping Tuesday. So I'm just and I haven't been getting a lot of sleep, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. I feel like I'm pretty amped up. And you know what? I actually enjoyed being amped up at first, but now after it's been like almost a week of not getting a lot of sleep, I'm starting to feel it. But I always feel good get on my COVID Cabal Periscopes with you guys. So we're gonna dive in really quick. We just have to go through the wine, okay? So, well, Salmon. In all honesty, yeah, there's some of that, especially because with these odds, the payoff space, man. Oh my god, man. When this comes through, but we'll save that for later. You guys will find out. You guys will find out what happens. But yes, I am indeed taking advantage of these odds. I am indeed taking advantage of these odds. And so yeah, but one of the things I did is I've done like now a formal kind of tabulation of everything. So now I know, like, I have like a spreadsheet and everything, so I know where the money's all gone. So, oh man, we're certainly crossing the 150K threshold. We're gonna be going. I don't have that much liquid, brother. I had to, we just bought an apartment. So, let's talk about these wines real quick. All right. So I got them in order here. I'm actually going to do it like this. I think this is better. I'm going to move the wines down the one side, and we'll have the glasses on the other side. See, Salmon, it's not. It's not. See, I mean, I know that you're not meaning anything by this because I know what you've done. I know what you've done. So I know this is like anything you say is the pot calling the kettle, right? But I said this a million times. I don't do this stuff. I don't ever do it. As far as I'm concerned, this Paul Steve. As far as I'm concerned, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's it. As far as I'm concerned, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I consider it more like being an investor because it's like when you're kind of gambling, you're like playing with chance. You don't know what's going to happen. Everything's up in the air, like with sports and whatnot. This is really something. It's like you have inside information. You understand that the market's manipulated. And so you have to take advantage of it. Because, I mean, especially when these odds were getting to like 25, 27 to 1. Right now they're getting bad and they're going down to like 14. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts, the kind of returns you can get. And thank you, Rivellino. So look, real quick with the wine here. So we're still on Sicily. The Sicilian wines this time. We got 3 Sicilian reds for you. Okay? And I'm going to show you where we're going in the country. So we have the first one is right around here. Golfi. Okay? And then the next one might technically be an Etna Rosa. It's right on the very edge here. That's where the vineyard's located. And then we got a final one all the way up here, north of Messina on the coast. Okay? So these are the 3 wines. And I don't know what to expect, guys. I don't know what to expect to check some of this stuff out. Let's see. That's lovely. Guys, I want to show you something for a second here too, if you can see it. Okay. this is a valuable lesson here. So you look at these wines. Maybe you won't be able to get a good light. You can see this one's a little darker. Okay, these first two I got in Italy in New York. This third one I got at Total Wine. This is much more of a basic one. Yeah, these two you can see that the ones that are made from like very skilled winemakers, because Italy has really good stuff. You can see that the color is like there's almost like it's brighter and it's creamier than the one from sort of generic producer. So I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to taste. So I didn't mention it on the nose. This is the one that's probably the Etna Rosa. It's not technically an Etna Rosa, but it's same climate, same location, pretty much. Super like a lot of sulfur. Sorry, not. I mean, like volcanic. It smells very volcanic, and I know that you're not supposed to say that the soil comes across like that, but I'm not bullshitting you guys. That is exactly what it smells like. It smells like when you're at a volcano. Okay, so I don't know what else to tell you about it. Maybe it's coming through with the soil. I like it a lot personally, and I have to tell you that I've had wines like that from like Vesuvius. It's very very similar. So I'll see. This one actually has a little bit too. It has a little bit too, but this is more meaty. But you know what? This one has it too, and this isn't on the coast. And actually, this is the basic one from Total Wine. Not that it was cheap; it was like $15. But what's interesting about this is that compared to the other ones, it's a little bit the texture isn't as nice. That's the main difference. I have to be honest. The texture is just the main thing here. Everything else is good. I want to go back to the first one real quick because okay, very different. Very different. Doesn't have any of that sulfuric kind of flavor or scent, whatever. Hmm. It's good. They're all good. They're all good. Um, I have to try to remember this stuff though because this is like giving yourself a taste of basic Sicilian reds. And I think what's really interesting is that I would have expected them to be much much bigger, just based on the climate, but they're not. I don't catalog my wine ratings, and I should catalog them, just simply because it would be good to. But it's not how my mind really works, guys. I'm not good at organizing that kind of stuff, and when I save that I save my organization for when it really matters. When it really matters, and unfortunately, wine does not matter for that. All right, so guys, we have a lot. We have a lot of stuff here. We have a lot of stuff here. We got a lot of shit, today. Now, first off, I'm going to address Salman because I know he's been very afraid recently. He's been afraid about what he's been seeing in Georgia. He's been afraid of them erasing the machines. I want to make some big sort of announcement here. Okay, it doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they do because what we're seeing going on the surface is really just this is a show. Okay, it's a show. Trump has the information. He knows what was stolen because the military has been on this for a while. The military's been on it. Trump has had it set up since the beginning of his presidency. At the very least since 2018, but I think he's had it predominantly set up since the beginning of his election. And this is a big thing with the Durham probe, right? Durham was supposed to be investigating things with the 2016 election interference. And we haven't heard anything from Durham. We haven't heard anything from him. Where'd he go? The investigation didn't conclude. He's just simply disappeared. Almost certainly, he's involved with what is going on with 2020. Q always talks about this. Watch Durham. Yeah, election fraud investigation. So, guys, I want you to understand that everyone's playing their part. Like Ali, for instance, Ali is out there. He is not privy to hardly anything with this, but he's out there. He's organically on his own, drumming up all this energy. It's amazing, getting people out there, showing the support. But that's why I think he gets stressed, is because he doesn't understand everything that's going on behind the scenes. Trump is not scrambling. Trump saw it coming. Trump was prepared for it. And so everything we're seeing on the surface is this controlled demolition. It's controlled demolition. Well, Salman, you're stressed because you got like $200,000 in the betting markets, and they keep closing bets. That's why you're stressed. Trump's not stressed because he doesn't he doesn't care, right? He doesn't care about you, Salman. No, he loves you. He'd be very happy to see you get rich. He'd be very happy to see you get rich. But his priority is not us getting our money. His priority is the Great Awakening. His priority is the controlled demolition of this world. So guys, I want to, James Clapper being taken to Guantanamo for questioning. It's very possible. It's very possible. I mean, I actually believe that this stuff is going on. It's very tough for us to know if it's true or not. It's tough for us to know if it's actually happening because we don't have privy to the information. But it's going to be dropping big this week. So all of you, bettors, look, I'm not saying that everything's going to get resolved this week. It's not going to. I mean, okay, I'll say something else first. We know now we have a confirmed date. I think there's a little bit of leeway with this, and I'll explain. But we know it's going to be by December 14th now. We know it's December 14th, okay? And we know it's December 14th. We know it's December 14th. Yeah, the Sufis understand it. Sufi is an incredibly high vibration sect of Islam. I mean, really, that's the thing. Like every religion, as you get higher consciousness, kind of converges on the same point. I do think though that different people who come from different lineages, it's better. Some religions are better at accessing that than others for those people. And some religions have more distortions than others, right? As a general thing. But so you got to kind of weigh all that stuff. So, but Trump said in his interview the other day, he said, we're not, we are, what do you say? What do you say, guys? What do you say? He said that if the Electoral College doesn't vote for him, he'll concede. That's what he said. So that tells us that the Electoral College is a firm deadline. Trump, we're not talking about some sort of crazy situation anymore, or the probability of it is extremely low that Trump is not going to get the Electoral College votes. Well, he's not going to concede. He's saying that because when he tells them that, okay, I'm not going to, I'll leave if the Electoral College votes on it, then that makes them lose their attack element, right? It's harder for them to attack him for not conceding when he says, look, there's no president for the next, like Biden isn't president until December 14th. The Electoral College decides. If the Electoral College decides, regardless of the fraud, that Biden won the election, then I will leave office. Okay. And he's doing that. Yeah. So I'll tell you about Magenta, but he said that, and it was a very, very good pacing mechanism because it throws people off. It's like, what are they supposed to say? No, you have to concede now. There's tons of, there's precedent with the Gore election, Bush-Gore election. Obviously you wait down to this level. Now, so the 14th, feel pretty certain that that's what we're looking at, especially because, guys, you know what happens on the 14th, right? You know what happens on the 14th is we have a new moon eclipse on the 14th, okay? We have a new moon eclipse. Sorry, we have an eclipse. We have an eclipse on the 14th. We don't have a new moon eclipse. We have an eclipse on the 14th. No, we do have a new moon eclipse. I'm right, yeah. We have a full moon eclipse tonight, okay? We have a full moon eclipse that's going on from tonight through tomorrow. And then on the 14th, we have a new moon eclipse, all right? Big astrological events, which on their own maybe, but eclipses are always very powerful. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, thank you. Solar eclipse on 12/14. Okay, and that's really funny that it's it's coinciding with the Electoral College. So I'm sorry, guys. I feel pretty certain that it's going to be we might not know till the 14th what's going to happen, but we're going to know on the 14th. I feel pretty certain about that. Now, I know what Magenta said, and Magenta said it was going to be either right before, like pretty much right on the date, or maybe a little bit after. And I'll give you guys an example of what it could be with a little bit after, a little bit after. Now, she doesn't know the US election system. She doesn't know it. She's British. It's not her, she doesn't study this stuff. It's not her focus. So she doesn't understand all the details of it. And I think this is where a 3D, 4D element comes into play as being relevant. The only thing, like, she said maybe he doesn't get till the inauguration. That's very sloppy. That's very, very sloppy. And it doesn't jive with what Trump's attempting to do. Okay. What Trump is doing, I think is better to say. It doesn't jive with it at all, because then we go into serious chaos. And moreover, the energy, the astrology, etc., doesn't support that kind of chaos in the immediate aftermath of the equinox. Things get clearer through the equinox. Okay. Sorry, the solstice, excuse me, through the solstice, through the 21st. The 21st is a big healing event. It's the end of the old, it's in with the new. So you're going to see my prediction is that 14th we get the info, and then there's a week of like compression up until the solstice, right? Where more and more stuff comes out and there's processing, and that over the course of that week, a lot of people in the country are going to come to terms with what happened and understand the truth. Salman, I believe that after the 14th, you will get paid. I believe that after the 14th, you'll get paid. I believe after the 14th, I'll get paid. Guys, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret here. If these bets go through, right? If I get in the rest that I want to get in, this could be like $1 million payout. Could be literally $1 million payout. Now I got taxes and stuff. I'm gonna have to pay taxes on it because I'm a fucking American. But big money. It's big money coming in because of these odds. It's gonna be close. It may not be quite $1 million, but it's gonna be close to that. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I'm kind of like that's why I'm not sleeping. Salmon understands. Yeah, well, you're a fucking Brit or whatever. I don't know. We're Irish. In the U.S., you pay taxes on betting. In the U.S., you pay, and I guarantee you one thing: I will not fuck with the IRS. So I'm reporting it. I'm not doing anything sketchy with it. I'm reporting that to the IRS. So not worth it. But look, 14th. Now there is something that's going to hit. Yeah, it's 25%. There is something that's going to hit. Something that's going to hit on the 18th. And what happens on the 18th? Okay, the 18th of December is where there's a election integrity board decision. They have to make their decision by the 18th of December. And so just to give something with Magenta saying it might happen right after the date or something, maybe there's something around here that the election integrity board has to deal with something. I don't personally think so. I think that might be more encompassing, that might be broader. But I feel pretty certain that based on the astrology, the 14th. But guys, I'm going to call a hard deadline on the 18th. Okay, I feel like 90% on the 14th, 100% on the 18th. I would be very. That's why I said yesterday Biden's going to concede by the 21st of December, because he's out by the solstice. He's out by the end of this world. So we got some big stuff coming up. We get some big stuff coming up. Look, Salman, I'm just gonna say one more thing on the betting right now. I read the terms of contract, and I'm not reading it in the way that you're reading it. My Betfair understands what's going on. Okay, that's one of the reasons that they're one of the only places that's still going on with this stuff. Betfair is doing this stuff. They have made a very good reputation for themselves by not dispersing funds and seeing this out. And they are not going to be so stupid as to, like, a couple days before the election, before the electoral college, say, okay, we're going to do this is the projected stuff. And that's the thing, is because all of these other sites that have paid out, they've done a calculated decision that they're going to pay out ahead of time, right? And they don't think it's going to go to Trump, but they'll hedge it otherwise. They're going to lose money doing that. They're going to lose money with that decision. But they have to honor it. That's the thing with Bet365. They're going to have to honor it. Smarket, they're going to have to honor it. They're going to have to honor these things. They're going to have to do it. Okay, they have to do it because Otherwise, I mean, they're going to lose in court very easily. So, like, I can promise you 100%, they will at least get you your money back, even if they can't pay out the winnings. You will at least get your money out if you can't get your winnings back. But you'll get your winnings, especially for the bigger ones. I think that the market exchanges like Smarkets, these things can be a little bit tougher. Predictit's a nonprofit. I have some concerns about that, and I'm going to tell you guys, and I'm not going to say anything else about this. All right, but I have to tell you guys when it comes to Predictit's a nonprofit, okay, and they say very expressly that they don't take kindly to, they if you this is what I'm trying to say. Do like you will not maybe be able to ask me how to handle Predictit. Okay, so I'm going to tell you now because they want you to negotiate with them independently. Now, look, if they don't give you your money independently, of course, seek out other people and try to get a class action going. But I am going to talk to them directly. I'm going to talk to them as somebody, who has all this money. They close some markets, and I'm going to talk to them as an individual trying to get my money back. Okay, because as it's a nonprofit organization, there is likely there's going to be some financial issues with them paying out everybody. Okay, so I'm recommending anybody who wants their money, you're going to have to be aggressive about it. I have cards up my sleeve with my platform, but you guys are going to have to be aggressive about it. Okay, you're going to have to be aggressive about it with them. But I would not go immediately towards class action. I would try to negotiate in good faith, saying I understand that, because there's a lot of people who are going to send like an email, give me my money, and they're not going to give the money. Probably, this is what I think is going to happen. I think that they are not going to give money to a lot of people. They're going to say we can't do it, and you're going to have to bring some weight to this. Okay, you're going to have to threaten legal action probably in order to get it. If people don't threaten legal action, and maybe you even have to go to the point of drafting a letter to get a settlement, it may have to happen with Predictit. I'm only saying that because I don't know how they're going to get the money to pay out everybody unless they do a separate lawsuit to the people they paid out to already. It's a tough position. Look, I get it. They're not really clued in as much to us. I think they are sympathetic to Biden, but they're not as clued into other stuff as us, and they've pretty much stopped. Like, here's an example of something I'm not really happy about with John James for whatever fucking reason. I love, like, John James is a good person. Don't get me wrong. I think he'd be an incredible senator. He's going to win. He's going to take the Senate seat. But this is the problem with so many conservatives is they're just such like good people that they won't fight for this stuff. Why would John James concede at this point? I don't understand why he would concede at this point. He was doing it, to try to be the better man or whatever. But you're dealing with criminals, okay? Fuck them, fuck them. Like, do not concede. We need more of this Trump energy. That's like, you fight, and you're a good person because you fight, not because you don't fight. Right? That's programming. Yeah, he probably got that lame GOP advice, and I'm annoyed about that because James, on my Predictit accounts, he cost me some money with that, and I think it's going to be tough. The concessions are going to be tough because they're going to use the concessions as leverage. I don't think he's CABAL, Salman. Trump tweeted him. Don't stress about the bets, guys. Don't stress about the bets. It's going to be all right. There's not, after what's coming, I mean, you better believe that these betting companies are not going to try to tell you that you're not going to get your money back. After what's coming, they do not want to do that because the anger and the outrage is going to be so intense against Biden and the Democratic Party that you better believe they are going to pay out to Trump supporters for things because we are talking about intense shit coming. So let's continue talking about this, all right? We've been talking so much about bets tonight. We're like not even started here. There's so much shit. All right. I'm going to talk about one of the very big things that's on everybody's minds. which is that we had this raid on on Iran. Basically, we killed quote unquote we killed. But Simon, it's okay because I have a lot of money here too. A lot of you guys have been following this stuff. We're all trying to get rich here with this stuff. It's all good. It's all good stuff. But we're gonna move on now to what's happening. Okay, so we had the chief nuclear scientist for Iran was assassinated recently. Okay, and so if you follow Paul Ferber, great guy, Paul Ferber has all sorts of random shit. I shouldn't say that. Paul Ferber has a couple of accounts that he mines out of 4chan, which is great because none of us could do that fucking work. 4chan is a nightmare of trying to sort through bullshit. 4chan is literally like it's just tons of incredibly offensive words, mostly bullshit, and then occasional insights. So he sorts through this, and he has a couple of different figures. Like obviously we had years back he had FBI Anon, which I think was cabal. I think that was a demoralization campaign because FBI Anon did selective disclosure. He would admit things, but then he'd say, well, you can't do anything about it. It sucks. Just give up. Remember, there's a lot of this stuff on the chans. Then you had, and more recently, of course, you have QAnon stuff. Q is on the chans. 8chan, 8kun, not 4chan. And then you have now, Paul Ferber, in contrast to Paul Publisher, our astrology guru. Okay, Ferber with a U, Ferber. Okay, Big Dick Anon was one of the big ones recently. Now we have Big Dick Anon's friend, CIA Anon. I have to say, when I read these posts, I see the exact same writing structure between CIA Anon and Big Dick Anon. Same exact writing structure. I also don't see Paul Ferber in the Valley of the Blue Moon yet. Okay, I don't see him in the Valley of the Blue Moon. If I had to take a guess about what's going on with this stuff, I would say that we are interacting with somebody who has higher level clearance and who's involved with things, because that's what the reason that we give these things credibility is because they disclose things, and these things that are disclosed are proven true later on, or at least proved corroborated. Now, at the same time, I have to say, these people in the chans who say this stuff, I'm not sure about the exact timestamps, but I've heard this stuff from other sources. So I don't know if the person on the chans is just dumping shit. But I have to say, if they're not on the inside, they have access to the inside. My guess is that some of these people are fucking around. I don't believe everything with this. Like I said, CIA Anon, Big Dick Anon. Maybe it's the same transcriber, but no, I don't. This seems like it's the same person, and he's telling a lot of people. I see truth with embellishment is what I'm trying to say. Okay, truth with embellishment. He's like, I'm just going, getting fish and fucking girls in the Bahamas, and these are the kind of things that somebody would write as a story. Oh hey, yeah, I was in the CIA involved with this stuff. Now I'm out. I'm fucking around now. Fuck these people. These people suck. So I'm not saying that there isn't truth with all this stuff. I wouldn't count out the Three Gorges Dam. I do think the Three Gorges Dam, there's maybe a future with that. But we have to acknowledge that Big Dick Anon has said that, we're going through an apocalypse kind of situation for 7 years of tribulation. And it doesn't look like it's going to go that way. It's a very 3D thing, not a 5D thing. So look, my peeps, look. The point I'm trying to get across here is that I think that there's a lot of disclosure that comes in with these posts, but do not take them all literally. And a great example of this, to connect it all, is the whole thing with this nuclear chief who was assassinated. Okay, so CIA Anon says that it was an assassination. We're now fucking them up. Fuck these people. Okay, fine. However, Thomas Wichter has his own little, he's a traumatized individual. He's the first to admit it. It can lead to him to mess up some details in perception or whatever. He has his own perception of things. That's fine. However, one thing you cannot say about Thomas Richter is that Thomas Richter really understands how to assess battlefield damage, and he really understands how to read. Yeah, it's like a forensic analysis. I can't do that. None of us can do that, right? Maybe one of you guys can do it. I can't do it. I don't know anybody else who can do it. And he's done this professionally, and so he analyzed this alleged Salmon can do anything, everything. Salmon can do everything. He assessed this crash damage with the nuclear scientist, and he pointed out a couple things. And I'm not going to go through everything here. You should watch his video. It's not very long. I recommend you watch it on 1.5 to 2 times speed because Thomas talks very slow. I do that usually anyway. But basically, what this looks like is you have 3 bullets in the front in the driver's seat. So very, very targeted hits. This isn't like a car that just got like vaporized, right? They didn't just like spray it with machine guns, try to kill everybody. Okay, like an assassination, what you would think would happen if you're okay with killing bodyguards, a single car on the road. Okay, I'm trying to contrast that with JFK, which is a public place, a road in the middle of nowhere with a guy you're trying to kill and his 3 bodyguards. You are going to waste that car. You're going to blow it up completely. You're going to make sure that everybody in that car dies. Okay, instead, what we see is 3 targeted shots to the front window. The car is mostly unscathed. Thomas goes into all these little details about the people, where somebody got killed or whatever. But what certainly is very, very convincing, I have to tell you guys, it's very convincing. I've watched some of Thomas's videos, and I'm like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't see it. Maybe I don't have the eye to see it. But this is very, very persuasive that this was not an assassination because of the way the car's been dealt with, the way that certain things have been smashed in. It looks very much like someone was kidnapped. And I'm not saying that Thomas got everything right here. He said they were firing blanks. Maybe that could happen. Maybe they would do it. But the point here is that it does not look like a car that someone was assassinated in. It looks like a car that someone was extracted from. That his guards, right, who were really guarding him. And if you don't believe that, there's a second piece here that's very, very persuasive, which is that the nuclear scientist died and his entire family disappeared and died too, or whatever, disappeared too. Okay, that doesn't make any fucking sense. That doesn't make any fucking sense. He was assassinated. The U.S. came in. Okay, first off, the U.S. doesn't kill people's families. I'm not, down that we've done some dark things, but we don't kill people's families. In the fake Bin Laden raid, we didn't kill his wives. All right, I'm sorry. We don't do that, first off. Second off, the family wasn't in the car with him. So where did the family go? If you accept the premises, this is what I've heard. I've heard this. I've heard that. Are you saying that that's not the case? If you're saying that's not the case, then okay, so that's interesting. So Thomas Richter, I don't know what he's talking about then, because he's saying that they were extracted. Because if the family was gone, the family was killed, quote unquote, in this. So this is interesting. So I feel very ambiguous about the situation now. So now we can present that there's maybe 2 things that were going on. Because what Thomas was saying was that, well, they've been like he was back channeling and he wanted to get out. And I will tell you one thing that Thomas, I think goes a little bit too far with is the obsession with the Saudis and with Israel and about their connection. I think that's because he's found out some things about that, and so then he places an overemphasis on it. I maybe they did it, but I don't know why U.S. Special Forces wouldn't do it up themselves. I don't understand why it would be an outsourced mission, and Thomas seems to believe that. But you look at this car. Thomas is suggesting that the guy was seeking an escape, okay, and that what he did was basically escape, and he defected with his family. Okay, defected with his family. Whereas his if his family's still in Iran, then maybe what we have is somewhere in the middle, which is that he wasn't killed, but he didn't defect. He was captured. And that makes a lot of sense. And that makes a lot of sense, right? So it's relevant because of that, but as you just said, the militarization of Iranian nuclear program, Mossad was tracking him since 2005. All that's completely true, and all that is. But it was asked earlier, why is this even relevant? Why are you spending the COVID cabal talking about this? Is because Iran was involved. So we understand Iran and China were involved with the vote stealing. Okay, so this would be an top nuclear scientist. I'm not going to speculate about everything here. I don't know if he was involved also with this sort of cyber stealing operation, or if getting him makes it able to destabilize Iran's nuclear program. But he's a very important figure. I can tell you that what Thomas pointed out makes it very unlikely that he was killed. Okay, I actually do believe now that he was not killed in this raid. It doesn't look like the person was killed in this raid. But maybe he didn't defect. Maybe he was captured, and they're going to force him to talk. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But if he was captured, he was captured for very good reason, because he's got the information, right? And you know that they put his wife on television as a threat. Then that, hey, you gotta, don't play ball or something's going to happen to your family. But they want to, of course, play it off like he died. Iran will definitely play it off like he died, because if it comes out that he didn't die, then that's a very, very bad stuff. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So we got this stuff. All right. So we got the raid thing. All right. So let's talk about the other big thing that happened. Okay, the Kraken. Release the Kraken. Remember that. Sidney Powell released the Kraken. We got like half the Q people with Kraken in their name now. Kraken's a very it's a nice term, because there's a funny quote. I actually forget where it's from. Is it from Pirates of the Caribbean? I don't know where it's from, but it's release the Kraken. Now, General McHenry, Lieutenant General McInerney. I don't know why. I should be able to do this. I'm Scottish. I should be able to say it correctly. He previously told us about Hammer and Scorecard, which later on turned out to be pretty much true. He talked about the firefight over the server in Frankfurt. Okay. The firefight over the Frankfurt server. This was big stuff. Why was it big stuff? Because apparently 5 Americans were killed in it. They were fighting against the CIA, a paramilitary group. A lot of people are putting out that these 5 Americans killed in Egypt, in a plane crash in Egypt, along with a French and a Czech soldier, were actually victims of this attack, and they just changed the PR. I have to tell you, I do not know if that's the case. I do think the timing is very interesting. I will tell you that a piece of skepticism here is that the people who were on that, from what I understood, and maybe it was just an inaccurate reading, is that the soldiers who were killed, it was like a firefight, and they were killed in a firefight. Now, maybe it wasn't a firefight. Maybe the helicopter was shot down or something. But the thing is, a helicopter being shot down in Frankfurt, people would know about it. It's like, you can't hide that. That would have leaked out. So we didn't have a helicopter crash in Frankfurt. But we did have 5 American service members killed. But the 5 American service members in Egypt that were killed on that plane crash are like not people who would be, or at least many of them are not who would be in a special operations things. You have like a helicopter repair person, you have a doctor. It's kind of a weird group to have been involved in something that is more likely to have been done, not even necessarily with just special forces, but probably Delta Force, like literally the most secret of all special operations groups. So I appreciate what people are doing. I think that they're off base a little bit. I haven't been because the thing is, you could say, well, the bios of these people are made up, and the people that they're talking about are not the same people. But then why would they release it? Why would they release it? Like if I had heard a couple of like regular, oh, they was in Rangers, they were killed in some, I don't know. I know the military can do very good deception things, so of course it's possible. But I can just tell you, if they did, it's very effective because there's no way that I could piece together that these 5 people who died in a plane crash, a helicopter crash in Egypt, were 5 people that were killed in a firefight over a server in Frankfurt. There's no way I could piece that together. I don't see any connection between the two things except for 5 and 5. And remember also that it was 5 American service members in Egypt and a Czech service member and a French service member. So we could be off the ball. They have probably not released. My guess is they probably have not released the soldiers who were killed in that. Uh, so you see, I'm not denying that they were killed in it. I'm not denying that intel, and it makes sense that people are going to die trying to do this stuff. But I'm cautious of saying that the ones that we saw in the news are the same ones. But this is important because they got the servers, right? They got the servers. Now, I think personally that the stuff was intercepted prior. We don't even necessarily need the servers to know what happened, but having the servers gives us firm proof, things that we can. It's like doubling up your levels of proof that you can show because they can see what's going on with that. And I forget the guy's name, but he's been called the smartest man in the room. Has just joined Sidney Powell's team. So big stuff coming on that front, and I do think we'll see a lot of this stuff coming this week. I do think we're going to see a lot of this stuff coming this week. So they did get the servers. So, but I this is a long-winded way of talking about the 305th Military Intelligence Group, which is nicknamed the Kraken. 305th Military Intelligence Group's nickname is the Kraken, and they are the ones who have been on this shit. They've been on it. They specialize in cyber warfare, and of course other things as well. They have a lot of other hats. They're a very distinctive branch of military intelligence. DIA, right? Defense Intelligence Agency. Remember, DIA are the ones who are rooting out most of the CIA. I also want to make, Sydney, one of the affidavits is from the 305th member. That's where she's getting her information from. That's why Sydney's so ahead of the curve, and that's why you need to trust Trump. That's why you need to fucking trust Trump. Trust Trump and trust the military. Trust Trump and trust the military, okay? Because they got it all. And you say you don't think they can beat the deep state. The deep state is incredibly weak right now, okay? I can promise you at this moment, certainly within the next 2 weeks with what comes out, there is no way that Biden can become president. There's just not a chance that he can become president. And he can't become president because there's too many people who are completely awake to what happened. Everybody wanted Trump to do everything on their schedule. And he didn't do it. And there's a lot of reasons why, but one of the key reasons is that you need to be patient because the public's slow. You need to have a drawn out thing, as much as you can draw it out. You need to allow the consciousness and the awareness of what occurred to seed into, you have to change the frame. And the frame the weekend after the election was that Biden won. Those of us who saw the fraud saw the fraud. The media pushed that. In the media, because they can immediately get information into your head. This is actually important. This is a really important point here. The media can get information to you immediately. Doesn't matter if it's a lie, but they get the information to you immediately and they can spread it all over the place. Okay? So they're always going to have the advantage in the short term when it comes to disinformation because they have a bigger reach and because they can send it out rapid fire and blast it to every single platform. The truth is much, much more powerful and much, much more persuasive, but the truth takes time. The truth takes time to come out. You can't, obviously, if we had the media reporting the truth, then it would be great, but we don't have that. So we needed these weeks after the election because now you have over half the country knows the election was stolen. They know the election was stolen. It took weeks for that information to get out. And so we still have 2 more weeks. Okay, we still have 2 more weeks. And it's going to be big, big shit. It's going to be big shit that's going to be coming out with that. But the point I want to make is that since all this stuff has been seeded, into the public consciousness, there's a legal strategy here I'm going to talk about in a second as well. It's connected to this. But since it's been seeded in the public consciousness, all Trump has to do, and he will probably do this, if I had to guess, Trump will do this not the end of next week, but the end of the week after. Trump will make some presidential address, maybe the Friday before the Electoral College meets, or maybe the day of the Electoral College meeting, or maybe the weekend between, I don't know. And he's going to drop all the information out there. He's going to drop it out there. Okay? Maybe he'll do that before the Supreme Court. But I'm going to talk about a legal thing with that. But the point here is that Trump has the goods, and he will drop it at the last second because he wants attention, he wants the focus to be at a fever pitch. He wants people to have really started to believe the slow drip out of information, that they've come to terms with the fact that this could be possible. Tons of people can. And then it drops. Then it comes out. It's a period of revelations, which is why I was saying with the bets, guys, get those bets in Monday, Tuesday latest, because I do think the odds will drop. I can tell you I'm doing that. I'm getting the rest of my money. I'm pushing it. I'm pushing it out Monday, Tuesday. Especially I'm trying before the Arizona hearing. So, well, Trump's giving you a big headache, but Trump is giving you all that money, Salmon. So don't be ungrateful. Don't be ungrateful, Salmon. Because if it wasn't Trump doing this shit, you wouldn't even be making, you'd be making fucking nothing. That's all you got. So look, guys. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about what's going to happen. It's taken care of. There's a lot of cards in his hand, but the tension needs to get to the point. He's drawing it out. He's pulling it to the last second because everybody's going to be on the edge of their seat the last second. Okay? But then it's going to drop. Now, there's another strategy here. I want to talk more. We're talking about public opinion. And the reason all this stuff was relevant is because public opinion, you better believe if the Electoral College, the state legislatures, because, maybe people are saying it's going to go to state legislatures. They're going to have to, reject the certification and vote themselves. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen. I do think it's a card to play. I don't think it's the preferred card. I think that we are going to have more accurate totals, but it could happen. It's still going to result in Electoral College victory, but I don't think we're going to the House of Representatives sort of situation where we have, every legislature votes, as a group. I think that that's too destabilizing. I don't like that path. What I think happens is Trump wins 5-4 in SCOTUS, and I think that after he wins 5-4 in SCOTUS, there's all this other information that comes out that buffers the Supreme Court for the Electoral College. So you're going to have the combination of the SCOTUS votes, and I don't know the exact timeline on which will come first, but you're going to have the public opinion is going to be so obsessive about getting justice that maybe the Supreme Court, maybe if it happens before the Supreme Court, maybe the Supreme Court is going to go 9-0 with it. Probably not, though. That's wishful thinking. We're literally looking at the public will kill these people. I mean, when they find out that Brad Raffensperger or whatever, the Secretary of State in Georgia, which we're going to talk about the Secretary of States in a second. We've got great stuff on here. When they find out that he took $10 million and that we knew he took money. Now we're getting some stuff from, Paul Ferber took $10 million and, family members distributed through family members. It's in a Hong Kong bank. It's obvious he's bought off, guys. You don't need to know the details to know that he's bought off. But, I mean, these people are fucked. He's going to hang. He's going to hang, actually. I think Kemp is going to have to step down, and Kemp will go to prison. Governor Kemp of Georgia, he will go to prison. But Raffensperger is going to be executed. He's actually going to be executed because he took money to try to sell out the United States. So I just got a text from a friend, and maybe this is the whole thing with the it's the whole thing with the I don't know if you were making that up about Biden's leg being broken, but I heard that Biden was arrested. Now I'm not going to take that literally. I'm not going to take that literally that he was arrested, in the sense that the news release said Biden was arrested. But my guess is that I'm not going to check it during the Periscope. Maybe you guys can tell me. But that Biden, yeah, Biden fell. Okay, so that's almost certainly a tell that he's out of the picture somehow. He's been moved away. Of course, we're not talking about the same Biden anyway. Like, look at the guy compared to him a year ago. But what I'm trying to say here is that Biden is out of the scene for a while, right? He fell. That's the story. And we know that that's not true. It's the most bullshit fucking thing in the world, and we know it's not true. Okay, we know it's not true. So where is Biden? Where's Biden, right? So look, yeah, the judge just reversed order in yeah, I mean, whatever. They're threatening the judge. None of that stuff matters. I'm telling you guys, it doesn't matter at all. It's just more rats being caught in the net. That's all it is. Do not worry a single bit about a judge doesn't do this. Judge, the only court that matters is SCOTUS. And guys, SCOTUS even doesn't matter. I mean, SCOTUS matters for legitimacy, and he's going to win SCOTUS. He's got the 5-4 locked in. We know Roberts is blackmailed. We know the other ones are hacks and are in on the entire thing, put in those positions for a reason. But guys, we know he's got the 5-4 locked in. Okay, we know he's got that. But even if he didn't have it, the public consciousness is seeded to a point where if he goes on television, he has the presidential broadcasting system, and he releases the fraud. That's why I keep telling you guys, there is a 0% chance Biden becomes president. Everything that is being done right now is simply about trying to make it as easy and smooth as possible with the least amount of chaos and the least amount of casualties. That is literally all that we're talking about here. There is no way that with the information that Trump has, that it's going anywhere. There's no way whatsoever. All right. So I want to really keep emphasizing this for you guys. Those are people who are like, deep state's going to win. The deep state is done. That's why we're at this period of time. That's why the next 2 weeks are going to be the big revelation. That's why we enter into the new age on the 21st. That's why the entire year we felt like entire society, everything that we knew, our world is collapsing, because that world is collapsing. There's no going back for them. They are doing this stuff because it's all they can do. They're desperate. They're just hoping, and they're evil. The people who are not turning their back. Look, we have in Philadelphia, for instance, we have Cosa Nostra, right? Jimmy something, I don't know what the fuck. I have it written down here. We got all these Italian mob bosses who were doing all the shit, stuffing ballots, filling out all the crap ballots in Philadelphia. They flipped, okay? Because I have to tell you guys this, and I can't say this for every mob member ever, but the mobs are criminals, but they're not demon possessed, okay? They're criminals. They've got negative energy. They're service to self entities, bad people, right? They're not demons. Because if you're not a demon, then when someone tells you, hey, I know what you did, like, are you gonna work with us? Or are you gonna, suffer? And they're gonna say, no, I'm not gonna. I'll work with you. Fuck these guys. I don't want to. I'm not gonna get involved with the big stuff, right? If you're a demon, that doesn't factor into your thinking. And when I say you're a demon, I mean a person who has been possessed by a demon. I don't mean people who have demonic even influence. I mean someone who is completely possessed by a demon. These people just keep going. They just keep going with it. So, and the underlings are, with the exception of Antifa, a lot of these like corruptible figures, they are they're going to rat out everybody on top. So we know where it's all going. We know it's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. So let's see here. Let's keep going. Let's keep going down. Where's Coomer, right? Where's Eric Coomer? Speaking of Georgia, where's Eric Coomer? Word on the street is he's dead. We'll see. You know, another thing that CIA anon guy said was that Stacey Abrams and her crew messed things, fucked things up in Georgia. But this is one of the reasons why you see disinformation, because yes, they did fuck it up in the sense that they made it very apparent about the stuffing, broken water pipe, etc. But the reality is that, again, Trump already had the information on them, so they weren't going to get away with it if Stacey Abrams and her crew didn't do that shit. That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, this Cosa Nostra people, Skinny Joey Merlino, that came out, right? That he had flipped. Now that was, of course, not on mainstream news, but that he had flipped. Let's keep going down here. Let's keep going down here. So we had Bill Gates, for instance, right? Another big thing. Bill Gates connected to Smartmatic. We knew that already, though. We already knew about Microsoft funding Smartmatic, but we have stuff back from 2015 with that. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. But here's the thing, we can't stand Stacey Abrams. I just want to give you guys an example, to emphasize how corrupt these people are. Stacey Abrams was obviously trying to steal the 2018 gubernatorial election. Okay, she's obviously trying to steal it. And, she was running against Governor Kemp. And Governor Kemp barely pulled it out. It was ridiculous. He would have won in a much higher margins, but because of the fraud, he barely won. And she didn't concede till April of the next year, okay? Talking about, keeping expectations there. She wouldn't give up till then. And the media congratulated her on not giving up. But we already know the hypocrisy. It's not like, I'm not one of those people, you see people who put out these tweets like, the media was hypocritical about this. Like, of course they were hypocritical. It's not hypocrisy. It's that they understand who's on their team and who's not. They're paid by the same people. But I want to give you guys an idea of the corruption in Washington and across the country, and why only a great man like Trump could really be doing this stuff. We have, Trump. Okay, let me put it this way. Governor Kemp almost had his election stolen from him by Stacey Abrams. And his response to this, he's such a piece of shit. He's such a piece of shit that his response to this incident was to make a deal so that him and his own cronies could stay in power, and he'd fuck over the rest of the country again. He decided he would be a criminal as well. He'd take some money now that he got into the position. People are total pieces of shit. I mean, literally, they are the scum of the earth. They are scum. And they have to go to prison, and they have to be killed. Okay, they have to be, because we have to get rid of them. We can't allow them to be here. And, under normal circumstances, a demon will find a new host after you kill their host. But with the changing energies and the changing vibrations, there's not as many people that they can do that with. So when we execute these people, we're kind of banishing the demons as well. All right. And we have to just do it because we have to send a message about this stuff. They are so corrupted. They're corrupted to the core. Which actually brings me to a really important thing. And this is important because I don't know that many people have talked about this. Okay. All right. Actually, no, sorry. I have to go back to something with Powell. I know we're all over the place, guys, but you're dealing with an ENTP who's had 2 glasses of wine right now. So you're going to have to deal with that. You guys know me already. You know this stuff. You know how it works. I have to go back to this because I didn't close the chapter on it with Powell. The legal strategy, okay? The legal strategy, part of this whole legal strategy with the drip, all these lawsuits, and then the judges strike it down. Yes, it's to get the SCOTUS, but it's also, it is to get discovery. Okay? And why is it important to get discovery? Because when you get discovery, that's when the entire fucking can of worms gets opened. That is when the entire fucking thing gets opened. That's when you can start to have all the people in the military start to reveal their information. Right now, all these little attacks from different angles, they're all designs to just allow the door to be creaked open enough that the entire thing can fall out. It's very, very tactical. It's a very, very tactical procedure, which is why they're trying to erase the machines in Georgia. I'm going to tell you guys again, it doesn't matter. Word on the street, 20,000 people, mostly military, some civilian who are deputized, in every single major precinct. And I want to emphasize, guys, okay, the overwhelming majority, we're talking like 95%, maybe more of the precincts or counties, certainly, but precincts in this country are run by honest Americans, which is why I do not want you, I keep trying to emphasize this, do not demonize the left. Do not demonize the left as much as you can. Do not demonize the left. Okay, there are a lot of lefties who voted for Trump. We're going to find that out, that he got probably 25 to 30% of the left to vote for him. Okay? Trump won these people over. They're not bad people. And there's also a significant portion, equal amount of lefties that didn't vote for Trump because they get triggered by Trump, but who are not as black and white as you believe. You can't base the entire party on the lunatics. And even a lot of these people who have been lunatic, like, I'm not talking about Antifa, they are under a mind program and they're low resonance, right? They've chosen dissonance. They've chosen dissonance. But guys, really, really important here. We're going to have to help heal these people. I have family members. I have a lot of family members who are lefties, and they have been fine to me for the most part. I've had one recently who had a meltdown, but whatever. She's not a bad person. She has to raise her vibration, but she's not a bad person. That's the point I'm trying to make. They don't actually want the negative things that they have been supporting. They're under a false light program. So they're going to have tons of shame and regret when they find out what they've done, what they've supported, whatever. There's only a very small subset of people who are truly evil and need to be like obliterated. Most people are not bad. They're just misled. They're, they've been pulled in the wrong direction. That's pretty much all you can have to say about it. So the point here about saying this stuff, right? I mean, first off, we also know that there's tons and tons of Republicans who are corrupt. But the thing here is that I voted in South Jersey, okay, in my precinct. I actually didn't vote in my precinct in South Jersey. I tried to because I thought I was registered. If you guys maybe remember, I was not registered for whatever reason, which I don't know why that was. I don't know why I wasn't registered when I registered. Maybe because I registered as a Republican. I don't know. It's possible. But guys, I was also registered in New York. And I kind of expected I wasn't going to get registered in New Jersey just based on the way that the website was kind of shitty. I don't know. Whatever. I don't have to get into it. The point here is that the people there could not have been more kind and helpful. And it's probably pretty split in reality, but it's more lefty than right. It's not too crazy. It's maybe 60-40. These people would never, they were so friendly and so warm. Okay. So this is a liberal town in Jersey. But if you don't think that's enough, I was in Manhattan when I actually did vote. Like Gramercy, okay? Right in the fucking heart of Manhattan. Shit-lib territory. I had zero negative experiences. They were super positive. They were super helpful. There was no fraud going on there, guys. There was no fraud going on there. The people did not have an agenda. It happens in very, very small precincts in these counties, okay? And frankly, I have to say it, it's in minority counties because they know that there's Part of it has to do with the people who are working there and they're getting paid, they're getting bought off. Also has to do with the fact that there's not a very heavy number of voting population there, so fraud's more appealing. Okay, but the point here is that, to bring this back to the main thing, is that there's only a very small number of precincts that you actually have to watch across the country, and they're mostly in inner city America. Okay? And so from what I've understood, 20,000 people, mostly military, some civilian deputized, have been there in groups of 4 to 8 in all of these locations, undercover, recording things, paying attention to it. So the information's there. Now you could say, well, how do you know that? And I would say, well, do you think that Trump, who knows that they've been doing this and knows they're going to try to steal it, do you think that Trump wasn't going to be prepared for it? Do you think Trump, that's been tweeting about this since 2012, do you think that when he was president, and he's no, of course not, right? So I really want to emphasize here for people that just because you don't know about it or you haven't heard about it, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. First off. Second off, what you hear is not always what it appears to be. Third off, if you hear it, then you know they're really fucked because now you've heard it. So a lot of this stuff is really understanding how people think. It's not about having the information. That's why people are like, give me a source, give me facts. It's like, I will give you somebody's brain and how they think. And then I will tell you that if that person, and I'm not as smart as Trump, I don't have as many smart people. I don't have anybody who's like doing this shit for me. So if you're super intelligent like Trump, okay, you're super intelligent like Trump, and you have a ridiculous number of intelligent people who are maybe even more intelligent than you in their niches at your disposal, are you not going to watch these places? So when we hear the thumb drives were stolen, how do we know there weren't copies made? Okay, how do we know that this entire thing wasn't observed? I'm not telling you that every single bit of fraud, every little tiny piece was caught. I'm not telling you that every little tiny piece, that we're going to get every single vote back, all right? But I'm telling you that we are going to get like 95% of it, at least. Because we have all this stuff. And yeah, Trump has his own intelligence agency. So look, guys, I had more to say, but we had a pretty long Periscope. We'll do another one, we'll do another one soon. I know that dinner is downstairs. All right, now I have to say one more thing. Thank you for mentioning Soros. Because I have to mention this, because this is the thing that I wanted to talk to you outside of the Sidney Powell stuff. And we'll close on this, all right? Soros has an organization, and I remember it. I have it written down here, so don't worry about it. I'm gonna give you guys it. I have to tell you guys, all right? I give credit where credit's due, but I have to say, before I heard about this, I'd already figured it out. Because I said, it's very, very curious that you had two things happen in most of these swing states. First off, like 5 of the 6, I think. And then you have Georgia. Georgia and Arizona are the only exceptions to this. And in Georgia, we know what happened. Arizona is a little bit more mixed. That you have Republican legislatures, because it's difficult to buy out a legislature, right? You can buy out a member, but you can't buy out every member. Which is why the Constitution gives so much power to legislatures versus individuals, because you can buy out an individual, but a legislature, you have tons and tons of people. Now, of course, the cabal still figured out how to blackmail people. But the point here is that that's why we don't have the courts, a single judge. That's why we don't have a governor. We have the legislature. There's higher chance of individuals with integrity over the broader swath of a legislature. Now, it's still very interesting that you have all these Republican legislatures, and then you have Democratic governors, but even more interesting, Democratic Secretary of State. And this is what I saw this, and I was like, The governor thing's big, but what's really interesting is that the worst actors in all of these swing states are the secretaries of state, which is a really, like, in our perspective, pretty minor position. I mean, certainly you could say it is the biggest position after the governor, but you don't really think about it, or lieutenant governor, but you don't really think about it. You know, it's kind of like a, seems like a minor, like, administrative position. Well, guys, guess what? Guess what, guys? Or guess what? Actually, I'm trying to find this. Guess what? What is the name of that fucking Project Democracy? That's the name. Project Democracy. Soros backed organization, Project Democracy. Their explicit goal, guys, their explicit goal was to win Secretary of State races, and Project Democracy, as being a Soros backed group, was also tied to China. Which, right, remember, we have Raffensperger has Chinese money. So, Soros backed organization focused their. They said we're going to focus on, and think about it for a second, Secretary of State. Think about it for a second. It's actually really brilliant. You got to give credit where credit's due. It's brilliant because no one pays attention to these races, but they certify the elections, right? They have an oversized influence on these things. It's a very, very minor role mostly, but if you're trying to steal a state and you want to protect against fraud, easy to buy out. District attorney as well, 100%. District attorney, of course, judges, but Secretary of State. And guys, you can try to find it on Twitter. It was literally in their express statement, Project Democracy. They had a focused campaign on getting, the support, right, of secretaries of state. So, guys, and thank you. I appreciate the kind words. I love you guys. We have. And I want to emphasize for a second. I want just one last little thing here. Big 2 weeks ahead. Okay. After that, we're gonna keep doing these once a week. As you can see from behind me, I'm actually in the nursing chair, and this is the cradle. Baby's coming. All right. I've been telling Penelope that she can't come until she can't arrive. She can't be born until after the solstice. Okay. She can't come till after the solstice. I don't think she's going to, but we will still be doing things once a week. Obviously, I'm going to be even pulled into stuff with the new baby. But guys, all right, guys, we still got a lot more to go. So I don't think we got a lot more this next 2 weeks. It's going to be an intense period, but we have easily the next couple of months, and who knows what the future is going to bring after that. So I thank you guys all for the support. I love you, and I will see you certainly Wednesday or Thursday on the next COVID Cabal. All right, bye.